Welcome, welcome to another Meetup Live. You're joining us for community building office hours. My name is Alex. I am a senior team lead with our community support team, and I am joined today by Colin. Say hello, Colin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colin. I'm a manager of the support team on here at Meetup. Nice to see y'all.
Right. So we'll go ahead and get started today. We always like to start at the top of every one of these events with our guidelines. First and foremost, this event will be recorded, but you do not appear in the video. You've been courtesy muted as well. So the only people you should be seeing or hearing today will be Colin or myself. However, your questions are a crucial part of today's event. So if you have questions today, feel free to submit them in the Q&A section. We've got support specialists on the line today to answer questions in real time. And we'll also try to save some questions. We'll have time to answer some questions aloud at the end. If you'd like closed captioning, that option is available. If you'd like to turn that on, just click the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and you can select your preference. Today, we will be going over some product updates, giving you some glimpses into the newest features that Meetup has released. Then we'll get into the real meat and potatoes of today's presentation, answering questions that were submitted before our event today through a form on the Meetup event itself. We will make time at the end as well to answer some additional questions if we've got it. And then we always like to make sure that you have access to resources and links so that you can get in contact with our support team and stay up to date on the latest news. All right, what we will be talking about today is subscriptions, who pays for it, and what access that gives them to manage a group. We'll be talking about how to boost RSVPs and get the most engagement when you publish an event. We'll be talking about what happens when you have two Meetup accounts registered under different email addresses and when and how you might want to navigate between them. We'll also be talking about organizer liability. We had a question about this last time. We got another one this time. It's a rare but sort of persistent concern about what responsibilities you have legally when you are hosting an event. We'll also talk about merging groups. Sometimes there are two groups with similar interests and we get an organizer who wants to merge them. So we'll talk through the logistics of that and why it can sometimes be more difficult than you might expect. Last but not least, we'll also talk about feature requests, because sometimes you will encounter things in Meetup that you think are a great idea that haven't been implemented yet. We want to make sure you know how to submit those requests and see them incorporated into future versions of Meetup. First, Colin's going to take over and walk us through some of the latest product updates. Colin.
All right. Hello. So our Member Plus team is launching a new member profile experience. This is right now just on the Android app. So if you have an Android app, feel free to go in and update the app so that you can see this new design. So there's a couple new sections here. Well, first of all, you can see it's a much more prominent profile photo, but we have new sections for looking to. This is something you can edit in your account settings. You can select why you're on Meetup and what you're looking to do on here. And we have the options right now. The options are looking to practice hobbies, looking to professionally network, looking to socialize, looking to make friends. You can select one or all four of them. And this helps you kind of see what other people are on here for and their intentions for attending events and joining groups. Another new section here is the shared groups and shared interests part. So if you are looking at someone else's profile, you can see that some things that you have in common. So you can see, oh, I'm in the same group as Jeremy, or I have the same interests as him. We also have a much more prominent button to chat with him or send him a direct message. Now, just keep in mind that members have full control over these over their profile in general, so they can choose what appears and doesn't appear on their profile. Like I said before, this is just on the Android app. It'll soon be coming in the iOS Apple app and on the website on desktop web. So yeah. This, if you have any feedback about this, we'd love to hear it. We hope you like the new design and we hope you like these new sections. There's more plans in the works from the Member Plus team of how we want to better, encourage engagement between members and organizers and all of the above. So yeah, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. Thanks.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, I think we've got a lot of features on the horizon that are designed to promote connections between members and making sure that you can really like forge those communities through interpersonal contact. But I'll stress again, and it's on this slide here, members are always going to have full control over what information does and doesn't appear on their profile. So you'll be able to make those connections with this amount of security and safety that you're most comfortable with.
Exactly.
Now we will roll into the Q&A section. Our first question was about a feature that we formerly offered and no longer do currently, which is photo tagging. The question was, why have you eliminated tagging of photos? Why don't you allow inline photos with the event description? That second question is specifically referring to when you publish an event, we used to allow that you could insert an image literally into the body of the event description. It's not something we currently support right now. We did some work recently on the photo uploader, sort of just streamline that experience of uploading photos. Like I said, used to be a feature available, no longer is. As to why, I don't have a lot of specific information about this particular feature, but our product team does take into account all of the feedback we receive from organizers and members using Meetup. So a lot of these updates are based on how frequently they get used. They sometimes are determined on what technologies are available to us as we continue iterating on Meetup and making sure that we're using like the fastest and the most streamlined versions of what's available in order to make sure that the experience is sort of like up to date with how the internet's working now. And then, like I said, feedback's a crucial part of it. So if you happen to have a group that was using photo tagging or was using inline photos in your event descriptions, and it's like a sore spot for your community, like you really miss using this feature, this is a great opportunity to use our product feedback form. You can file a request directly. It'll go to our product team. They sort through the requests that we receive. We sort them through by volume so we can really see the impact of how these requests are sort of like impacting your particular groups. I'm going to go ahead and actually open the product feedback form. Sometimes we like to show how easy it is to actually use this feedback request form. So here it is, the product feature request and product feedback for Meetup. So when you open this form, this is what you're going to see. You can choose from this drop-down menu the particular kind of feature that you're submitting a request about. And if it's sort of like a general request or you're not sure exactly what part of Meetup it's impacting, you can always select other. In this case, we're talking about photos. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and click next. Now we've got another drop-down. We've selected the overall category, like the overall feature. Now we can get a little bit more specific. Again, if you're not sure exactly, you can always pick other. In this case, I'm going to click photo albums because we're talking about tagging, and tagging, it becomes a sort of an organizational issue. So here we can type, my group uses tagging to organize, sort, and quickly find photos with certain participants at certain events. We really miss this feature and would love to see it back.
Yeah, I like how you wrote that because it's really important to share kind of the context of why you want this feature. Like, it's great, you can say I want tagging. Okay, but like from a product point of view, it's really helpful for them to know why. Like, okay, like sure, we can give you tagging, but like what is like the use case and what is this solving for? So just wanted to share that because that is really helpful when you share the reason for why and how it would be helpful for your group and for your events and for your members. So yeah, that was perfect on how you wrote that, Alex.
Thanks. And I think that sort of attitude about approaching these feature requests, if you do have one, equally useful for a feature that we used to have and is now missing, or a feature that you just haven't ever seen and that you would like to see implemented. Understanding the usage, like how your group would be using this feature really helps us prioritize the urgency of creating some of these features. In this case, as we scroll down, it's asking which platform is this feedback about. As you are no doubt aware, Meetup is available on the website. You can also open your web browser on your mobile device, and we have apps for Androids and Apple devices. So in this case, photo tagging, let's say it's specific for these particular versions of Meetup. Who are you? Let's say you're an organizer. You can put your location, and then we fill out the email address and press submit. And there we are.
For email address, if like you want to be notified when if and when this feature is launched, that's why we would encourage putting your email, because every time we launch something that people have requested, we follow up with everyone and tell them that we did it. So yeah, make sure to add your email if you want that.
Also very helpful if you make sure to use the email address that is linked to your Meetup account. Every so often we will receive messages from email addresses that are not linked to Meetup accounts, and they'll be asking questions about their account. For security purposes, we wouldn't be able to investigate anything or confirm anything on an account specific level. So if you have further questions when you submit a feature request through that feedback form, be mindful about which email address you're submitting from. Which leads us into our next question.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the perfect segue, because this is kind of a common question about duplicate accounts. And I think this is what this question is hitting. So the question is, why was I unable to switch accounts for this event to my assistant organizer account? So it sounds like this is an organizer of a group, and maybe they are logged into the wrong account, and they might see, I'm not quite sure of the exact situation here, but it's basically describing a case of like duplicate accounts. So if you create multiple accounts on purpose or accidentally, it might be confusing when you log in and you try to find your group, but it's not there because you're wrong, or you're logged into the wrong account. So some organizers create multiple accounts, each registered to a different email address. And you can do this, sometimes people do it on accident. When they go to log in, they go to log in through Google or Facebook, and maybe that their Google or Facebook is linked to a different email address. So just be mindful when you're logging in. Try to remember how you logged in your for your first account, so that you don't accidentally create a second account, or you don't accidentally log into the wrong account, and then you don't have access to your subscription. So this can get confusing since there isn't an easy way to like switch accounts without logging out and logging back in. So just, yeah, like I said, keep track of which accounts you've logged in with. If you're not seeing the organizer tools you're expecting, just make sure to check your profile. I'm actually going to take over screen sharing because I want to show you an easy way to do that.
Great.
Right here. So here I am on my, just homepage. I've logged in. A great way to just quickly see which account you're logged into is going over here, and you can click view profile. You can see, oh, I'm the organizer. I have these groups. I know for a fact I'm logged into my organizer account. I can even go over to my groups and I can see, oh, I'm the organizer of these two groups, Now, another way is going to your settings, and you can see, I think it's over on account management. You can see the email address that you have created this account through. So if you ever get confused about that, go into your profile or account settings just to make sure you're in the right account. And if you do write to us and say, hey, I'm confused, I have a duplicate account, we'll typically respond with please write in from the email address that's associated with that correct account, because that's how we verify who is, who's who's actually the owner of the account. So if you contact our support team, make sure to contact us from that email. So I hope that covered it. But yeah, just wanted to make sure we're clear on correct account.
One slight addition I would add.
Yeah.
if you're not sure which email address you should be writing in from, that's not the end of the world. Like Colin said, like we do get this question pretty frequently. So if you do need the support, don't let the uncertainty about which account is linked to which email address stop you from writing in. There are things we can do to investigate, to make those confirmations, and to help you get the access you need to get to your account and to get to your organizer tools.
Exactly.
So just want to call that out. Cool. Question number 3. This was an interesting one. Someone had asked, are you aware of shadow bans of some events? The answer, briefly, is no. Meetup doesn't actively suppress events and search results, and we don't suppress event announcements either. But we have heard organizers report in various contexts that they're not seeing the RSVPs they typically expect to see. So there are some different tactics we can recommend that you can try to boost your engagement. One overall thing, and it's not even on this slide, but it's just like a general rule of thumb, is that generally speaking, participation on Meetup overall is cyclical. Usually right after the new year, we see a huge boost in engagement. People are RSVPing to a lot of events, people joining a lot of new groups. It's that New Year's resolution urgency that like people are like, okay, it's a new year, new me. I want to try new things. I want to meet new people. But give it a couple of months and you'll start seeing that sort of subside. It'll probably bump back up again over the summer. We're used to seeing sort of like this cyclical nature of engagement. So bearing that in mind, some things that are within your power as an organizer to boost that engagement. Number 1, make sure that you're using specific keywords in your event title and event description. Right now, our search engine heavily prioritizes those keywords. So if you search for dogs, you're going to get events that have the word dogs in the title or in the description. And having both helps even more. They're going to be doing some experiments on search soon in order to sort of like expand the capacity for those results. We hope to have more information about that soon, but in the meantime, we're really emphasizing the importance of those keywords. Another tip, which probably isn't terribly obvious, is how often you are scheduling your events. Groups that have more consistent activity are likelier to show up in search results. Part of the reasoning behind that is that we do not want to surface what we call like zombie groups to new members. Someone who's just joined Meetup and they search for events and all that they're seeing in their area are these groups where like nobody is participating. So a way to register in the system that your group is active and that people are participating, try to have unique events every 2 weeks or so. Could do it more frequently too if your community is really active, but I'd say like as a minimum, if you've got an event coming up, schedule another one about 2 weeks after it. 14 days is about the sweet spot so that your group continues showing up consistently in search results. And then last but not least, trying to reach out to participants in different spaces, not just Meetup members in your area, but people who haven't even thought to join Meetup yet, people who don't know Meetup exists. So try posting on social media, try sharing URLs on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Twitter. We've got ways to promote your events directly in the apps and in the website, just like easy share buttons you can use. Another thing that we've started talking about lately is just posting flyers, going old school with it. You may or may not have heard recently that there was a Ryan meetup in Manhattan. Somebody just wanted to meet everybody with the name Ryan, and they put up flyers on street poles. It was a hugely successful event. I think they had like hundreds of RSVPs. So you know, if you're not living in like a high population area like Manhattan, looking for public libraries, community centers, places that are going to have billboards where people are like looking for local events, try posting information about your group there. Or another thought is if you're hosting in-person events, which we're supporting again, coordinating with the venue that's hosting your event, have the venue see if they can like support you in promoting what's happening so that more people know to turn up. And then comment down here on the slide also about the improvements we expect to see for event visibility in searching for events on Meetup. We'll expect to have more information about that in the coming months.
Yeah, those are great tips. I think when you mentioned the Ryan Meetup, I remember the flyer that they had. It had a big QR code, and even though Meetup doesn't have like a QR code generator, that's a great feature request if anyone wants to request it. But also, that's another strategy to like put the QR code out there, because it's really easy for someone to just scan and find your group. So yeah.
Before we move on, because I'm looking at some of the questions we've received in the Q&A so far, someone had echoed the same question before we even got here about shadow banning. Again, it's not a practice that Meetup does. But somebody else, Kelly, had asked, it seems my members and the general public can't see my events anymore. Do you have any idea why this could be happening? How can I be more visible to the audience without paying extra? I'm already paying to be an organizer. So it sounds to me like this is a very similar question with different phrasing. So again, like the tactics we're recommending here, another thing to keep in mind, and I sort of had alluded to this when I was saying like member participation can be cyclical on Meetup, generally speaking. But if it seems like even your group members aren't aware of events being published, that might be an issue on their end with notifications. And we can talk a little bit more about that later on if people have questions about that.
Yeah.
But and we've hosted many events about it in the past. Our blog is going to have video recordings about past questions we've answered about email updates, push notifications, what people can expect to receive and when. So some of it is possibly on the members' end, and some of it might be in your control with these bullet point tactics we're offering here.
Yeah, and
you have something you wanted to add to that, Colin?
If you try all of the strategies we mentioned, and if you like really cannot find your event or group when you search for it, maybe there's something wrong. So we encourage you to write into our product support team, because we can investigate that and help you figure out what's going on. So yeah, definitely want to support you in that way as well, because you never know if like something just isn't right. So
yeah, it's worth calling that out, but I will say like 9 times out of 10, those questions end up just confirming like everything went out as expected. Like all of the comms are in place. So then it becomes a matter of like, well, have you communicated with your members that they should have notifications for event announcements on? Some people just turn off all notifications altogether, so they never know what's happening. We empower members to make those choices because we want them to feel like they're able to control the most important messages that they are going to receive from us. We don't want them to just be inundated constantly with every single update that comes through Meetup. Our statistics show that when that happens, they're likelier to just opt out of all notifications, and then you see that like complete dip in engagement. So setting sort of expectations within your group about which notifications you expect your members to be receiving can help with that. And we'll talk at the end of our presentation today about how you can get in touch with support if you suspect something's going wrong. But I just also wanted to like set the expectation. Usually that isn't the case. Cool. Question number 4. Colin, you wanna?
Sure.
Oh, did you just answer the last one about? No, I did shadow banning. Go ahead.
Nope. Yeah. All right. So this is, how do you merge 2 Meetup groups? This is a common question, but we actually do not support the merging of 2 groups. And there's no automatic way to transfer all event history or photos or all members into another group. There's a couple of reasons we do this. Number 1, it's mostly around the like members' rights. We don't just want to put a member in a group without their consent. And that's essentially what you would be doing if you're merging everyone from one group into another. Regardless of if it's the same name, same everything, you're still taking action on their behalf. And we just, that's not what we do according to our privacy policy. We require all members to join a group themselves, and we can't do it for them. So it's just something that, you know, it's their right to, you know, do it themselves. And then another reason, which I think is, you know, is reasonable, is sometimes like the topic of the group changes. So if there's two groups that you have, one is like a hiking group and one is a basketball group, and then you want to merge them all into one, it doesn't quite align. Like sometimes organizers want to put all members of one group into a group that they weren't even interested in the first place. So again, that's just another reason why we don't support that. So, but there are ways to work around this. If you want to encourage all of your members from one group to join another group, you can select one group that you want to delete, and then you would contact the members of that group, telling them that this group is going to be closing, but we really encourage you to join this other group so that you can not miss out, blah blah blah. And then when you're ready, you can contact us and we can help you close that original group. So that's really the only workaround we have. But yeah, like I said, we don't really support that, just for the sake of our members.
Beyond the privacy concerns that you brought up, Colin, another thing that I learned recently through our the organizer community on Discord, which we will share contact information for as well. If you haven't joined that community already, it's a really great resource to network with other organizers and learn what tactics are working for them. One of our mentors, Anthony, had brought up an interesting sort of perspective shift around this concept about merging the groups. I think there's a common misconception that more group members means the group is more successful. And often that isn't actually the case, because statistically, only a certain proportion of those group members are actively participating, RSVPing to events, actually turning up to events. The more important thing is having those engaged members participating rather than having a huge number of members in your group. So, I mean, there are some cases where you have an organizer, they're leading two separate groups, they've got solid engagement in both, and they do want to unify them. In which case, the steps that you laid out here in that last paragraph on the slide, Colin, would be totally useful and valid, and our support team will help you to accomplish that. But if it really is like a matter of like, if a group has lost their organizer, automated notifications go out, you as an organizer get this message that it's like, a classics film club is without an organizer. They need someone to take over. And you're like, well, I lead a film club. I could just take all those members. But you don't even know from that notification how many of the members in that group are actually participating. Yeah, I just bring that up to sort of like question the assumption, because I think there are sometimes some expectations that the bigger the group, the more successful the group. And I personally don't think that's always the case.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, next question. Like I said earlier on, we do get this question periodically. It's like a persistent but rare concern. And the question is, what is the risk of liability for organizers, particularly for travel events or events where alcohol is involved? The laws are going to change from region to region, and Meetup is global. We've got organizers based in countries all over the world. And because of that, we can't really give specific information, like specific answers around these questions. So generally speaking, we kind of recommend you might want to talk to a lawyer if you're really concerned about your specific event. But we do offer in the Help Center 2 articles that sort of give some general guidelines. One of which is an article called General Organizer Liability at Events. And the other one is sample liability waivers. Some organizers choose to just write their own liability agreements with their members so that they're covered. If it's like a particularly long or arduous hike, and they're concerned about people's health along the way, and they don't want to be held accountable for that. Sometimes these liability waivers are just like an added peace of mind for the organizer. Meetup does support that if that is what the organizer chooses to do. Generally speaking, Meetup empowers organizers to decide how they are running their own groups and their events. So we can provide you with like templates for creating your own, but generally speaking, we don't have hard and fast rules about our own perspective on liability from group to group. It's a great question, and we want to make sure you are aware of the resources that we do have available to address it. Anything you wanted to add to that, Colin?
Nope. Good, cool. Covered it.
All right.
This one. All right, question 6. If I take over a group by paying for its subscription, can the person who started it take it back and still control what I do? Great question. So no, the answer is no, not without your authorization. There are some very specific edge cases that are where we would give back the group for, if our trust and safety team gets involved, but that's very rare. But the short answer is no. Once you take over a group, it is now your group and you can do whatever you want with it. So each group has one primary organizer at a time. So if someone owns a group and then they step down for whatever reason, and the group opens up and someone else steps up, that new person is now the new organizer, and they will pay a subscription in order to keep the group. You have unique administrative access to the group settings, specifically the money page. So, when you're the primary organizer of the group, you control the money, the event fees, fundraising, member dues. So that's what the main organizer can do. They're also in charge of the subscription. You can appoint co-organizers or assistant organizers or event organizers to help with the group, but they don't have that like top tier administrative privilege. And then, so if you'd like the group's original organizer to continue managing the group, there's some workarounds, like I said, assigning them co-organizer. So maybe, the original organizer just, can't afford to pay for it anymore, or they just don't have the time to be the main organizer. You can take over the group. You'll be the new primary organizer, and they can still ask the original organizer to help with this or that. So yeah.
It's an interesting question and a little tricky from how it's phrased about what the person asking this question actually wanted to achieve. Did they want the former organizer still involved? Were they trying to prevent the organizer from being involved? So any and all of that, like there are sort of options, but generally speaking, like you're saying, Colin, once you pay your subscription and you're the leader of the group, you're the organizer. I think another workaround potentially that some organizers manage is literally like they'll pay for the subscription using their own account, so they will maintain their ownership of the group, but the payment information that they use to pay for the subscription is shared from one of their members or a sponsor or something like that. Rare that we see that, but it does happen. And if you are, say, like a small business owner or a large business owner who is using Meetup to sort of like promote your business, you might be interested in Meetup Pro, which is like sort of an enterprise tier option. There's some sort of specific tools for reaching a wider array of people worldwide rather than sort of like the local communities that the standard subscriptions do. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that there is a version of Meetup Pro called the sponsorship model, where the person who owns the Pro network can pay for everybody's subscriptions in their network. They can sort of set up sponsorship tickets. So they have lots of local organizers running groups in the name of the network. But again, that's sort of like it's an option and it's not the general tactic. Usually, you take over a group, you pay for your subscription, you're in charge of the group. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, this is all of the questions that we received before the event today. I do see that we've been getting additional questions in the Q&A today. So we're going to start addressing these with our last few moments today. First question I see comes from Meredith. She asks, do you ever have any in-office meetings in New York City? We used to, but it's not really a thing that we've offered lately, right, Colin?
Yeah, not lately. We used to, before the pandemic, we did host, we occasionally hosted events in the office. I don't remember specifically what they're for, but then COVID-19 hit and we transitioned to office, but we did launch our Meetup live events. That's primarily online. So that was kind of how we adapted to the pandemic. But yeah, it's a great idea. I would love to. We should think about that.
Great idea for a feature request, frankly. So great. Thank you, Meredith. Next question comes from Natalia. She asks, is there a way to unlink a group from a geographical location? All of my meetings are online and in English, and I live in a predominantly French-speaking area. Due to the design of Meetup, promoting groups to folks living in the area, I see it's not really helping me. This is a great question. We get it a lot. The answer to that is, unfortunately, at this time, no. Because of the way Meetup is set up from pre-pandemic, it is sort of required. You have to select a city and location locally for your group. And part of the reason why is members have the choice in their own profile settings to decide how far they are willing to travel for an in-person event. Obviously, with the spread of online events and the way we're supporting them now, that's becoming increasingly tricky because we've got people who have exclusively online events trying to reach a wider array of people outside of that local community. I'm going to back up to a previous slide, actually. These tactics here, when we were talking about shadow ban, equally useful for reaching a wider audience. It's not just about location, because members can search for online events, and that is not as anchored into location. So keywords become hugely useful, frequency becomes useful, and then the way that you promote your events online becomes useful because you can potentially capture people from anywhere online. So just some ideas to keep in mind there. That's a great question, Natalia.
I see another one from Natalia. This is about Meetup Pro. She asks, is there a way to advertise a meeting happening in one group of my pro network in other groups of the network? Is there a way to advertise a meeting happening in one of my pro network groups in other groups of the network? Or do I need to make that meeting a network meeting from the start? So a network event from the start. If my product knowledge of pro is correct, I'm pretty sure you need to start with a pro network event. I don't know if you can create an event and then create another event and then like merge them as a network event. But Alex, do you know?
No, you're correct. You have to start it as a
with
network event. It's a unique setup within.
Yeah, that's a good question. But I could see a use case for that, you know, because you might have like two separate events and you want to make them a network event without having to like start from the beginning or start with a network event. Yeah, that's a good feature request, Natalia. I see another one from her. Is there a way to make network meetings reoccurring, or do I need to recreate it every time? I think this is another feature request because when we launched pro network events, one of the things we weren't able to build was making them reoccur. Unless they launched that recently, but I don't know if they did.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that having.
Yeah, but that is another some feedback we heard after we launched it is the ability to have it repeat, have the network event, repeat on a regular basis or whatever.
So another great feature requested.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's see.
Oh, sorry, one more.
Go for it.
There's a couple that Natalia asked. any way to provide donation instead of a price for folks outside of the US, basically people who international organizers who can't use Pledge or the fundraising feature. Fundraising, for those who don't know, fundraising is a feature that is only currently available to organizers in the United States. It's something that basically members can donate or make a contribution to a certain fundraiser. Right now, okay, so any way to provide a donation? So yeah, right now, no. The only thing I can think of is to use like a PayPal account. We don't have an integration for a specific donation or contributions feature for people outside of the United States. But I've heard of organizers kind of sharing their PayPal account, or even, I don't know if Venmo is available I don't think it's available outside the United States, but there's other money management platforms where you can receive funds. PayPal is a big one where they share their PayPal information with their members and say, hey, we'd really appreciate like if you could just contribute whatever you can to the cost of maintaining this group or the cost of putting on this event. However, I can say that we have heard a lot of requests for contributions or donations outside of the United States. And our organizer growth team will be exploring and testing something in future quarter, but no concrete plans at the moment. But yeah, that's again great feature request.
We'll be offering up a link to our product updates page on the blog by the end of our presentation today. So as we're talking about all these really great feature request ideas, as well as some of the things that Colin and I know are being developed, and obviously like we can't promise release dates on those or anything, so it's a great idea to keep an eye on that product updates page, because that's where we'll be announcing and sharing the latest stuff that we are launching to make it easier for you to build your communities. Cool. Someone has asked, can you make the Meetup search engine use topics also? Another interesting question. This is one of those things that used to be more of an accessible feature and currently isn't. Similar to international contributions, I believe we are doing some investigation work on how best to leverage topics, particularly in terms of events, because we're trying to prioritize matching events to members and what they're already interested in. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have more to share on those lines in the coming months. Let's see. And I think we got time for one or two more questions here. Viviana asks, how do we kindly and effectively advertise paid events offered in addition to free events so as to encourage participation? I have offered free events for 2 years now, and I've just started offering paid events. Congratulations, first of all, because that's always an exciting step. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to this, though, unfortunately. You can leverage the communication tools that are built into Meetup in order to communicate with your members and let them know that certain events will be paid now, like your contact members tool or your mailing list will send emails directly to your members and notify them of the shift. If the concern is less about how to advertise those events and more to encourage participation, the best answer I have for that, and this might not be what you want to hear, is trial and error. Every group sort of expands at a different rate. Every group has members who are able or willing to commit different financial amounts based on whatever their needs are. So depending on what kind of events you're offering, how familiar your members are with what is being offered and what they're willing to pay for it, different price points for different events can have very different impacts for RSVPs and for show-ups.
Yeah, I would also say transparency. Like just like giving like context and reason why. Like there must be a reason why you're deciding, to charge events now. And you can be honest with your members, and I think they'll really appreciate the honesty, and they can, they can have empathy for, why the shift, it costs
Yeah,
money.
I
Like
think
that's a fair thing to ask if, if you're, to put on events and groups, like it costs money, like it's fair to
yeah, and I
be
think
honest with
if
that.
you're concerned about how to communicate that with your members, taking a look at fundraising sites like Kickstarter or Patreon, and the transparency that the successful campaigns there have about like what the funds go towards. A lot of organizers on Meetup collect member dues, collect event fees, or collect those fundraising contributions specifically to offset the cost of an organizer subscription, which frankly, we as employees here at Meetup think is a great idea. And are working on trying to figure out better ways to integrate that so that the funds that you are raising can be even like those funds can be applied even more easily and directly to your subscription cost. Some organizers also, like, they're not worried about the subscription cost, but they are worried about the cost of hosting events, securing venues, securing the resources like plates and cups, for their various events. So just being upfront with what the funds are going towards can go a long way to achieving the participation that you want to see. Cool. All right. I think that's all we have time for today. So we're going to roll into the last segment here, which is making sure that you have access to all of the resources that we've been talking about today. Our colleague Emily has been sharing links in the chat throughout our presentation today. She'll be sharing links of these QR codes as well, so be sure to save those. In the top left corner, we have the product feature request form, which I walked us through earlier. A lot of great ideas got brought up in our event today. So we'd love for you to share those through the feature request form so that our product team can take a closer look. The bottom left-hand corner is the product updates page on our Community Matters blog. Like I said, that's where we're going to announce the most recent updates and launches and features that are available. If you have questions about how to navigate Meetup, how to get the most out of Meetup, I strongly recommend visiting our help center. We've got a lot of articles about various features, both on the website and on the apps. At the bottom of every help center page, you'll see a link that says get help. You can click that to open an email support ticket. It'll be sent directly to our support specialists. They will respond directly to you and be able to provide account-specific answers to your questions. Last but not least, in the bottom right-hand corner is the direct request to report a bug. Sometimes something has gone terribly wrong and you see an error message pop up, or a feature just like isn't opening correctly the way it's supposed to. The best way to report that is by using this direct request. It gets funneled directly to the team that investigates problems like this so that they can move more efficiently and roll out fixes faster so you can get back to building your community. Last but not least, I called out that we have this organizer community on Discord. We launched this less than 2 years ago, and it has grown exponentially. I believe at this point there are thousands of organizers who have joined. I think that number is right. I think last I saw it was like around 3,000. And we have a team of mentors who are active organizers with their own communities. We have one available each morning and afternoon to answer questions. Plus, there are many channels where other organizers are talking amongst themselves about the strategies that work best for them. We'd love for you to join this community too. You can scan this QR code or click on the link that Emily is sharing. If you do not have a Discord account yet, you would have to create one in order to join this community. Discord is an instant messaging platform. When you set up your account and follow this link to join the community, you will want to first go to a channel called Start Here and answer some onboarding questions. And then once you complete that process, you will have access to all of the channels available in the community, all of the discussions, and all of the tips and tricks that are available within. That is all we have for today. That is our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your questions. These events are always really just rewarding, just to see how people are engaging with Meetup, what their questions are, what their experience is engaging with it. And we hope we will see you at the next one.